Hey guys, remember during the live stream for the 9-year anniversary update when 3RL said the following?
Alrighty. There are also some other improvements, such as a new dice event and
A new dice event. And what?
Alliance Battle rewards.
Alliance
available
Battle rewards?
even when re-challenging, so be sure to check out the update notice for more details.
Okay, so we know about the Alliance Battle stuff where you can now re-challenge it and get all of the missing rewards. That was an excellent change. That was more of a QOL, quality of life change, that should have been in the game from the beginning, but whatever. What I'm more interested in is that dice game. Do you remember that? Yeah, where's the dice game? And then, furthermore, I want to point out that in the data mine, right, if we look at the data mine here that was posted 3 weeks ago, a little bit less than 3 weeks ago, we had Scarlet Witch data mined as the mid-month tier 4, along with someone else from the Mighty Avengers, and we know now that that's Quicksilver. We had a second round of bingo with 5 boards instead of 6. So this has all happened. Let me move my camera here. But what hasn't happened is everything else that has been data mined. Now, I know, things that are data mined are not guaranteed to show up immediately. They can show up later. They could show up months from now. It is what it is. But in the spirit of... I guess in the spirit of holding them accountable, you know, there's been a lot of positivity on the channel lately, so I wanted to mix it up with a little bit of, not necessarily negativity, but sort of like constructive criticism. I do need to point out here that you probably shouldn't mention something. You shouldn't give a script to your presenter, in this case 3RL, and in the script you tell him to say that there's a new game mode coming out where a dice game, and then the dice game doesn't appear for at least a month after he said that. Because at this point, right, there could be an update next week, but that would put it about a month after he said what he said. Because if you look at this video here, it was streamed May 2nd, which is three weeks ago now, right? And so just a small tip here for the Marvel Future Fight people. Yeah, announcing things during an anniversary and then not delivering on them for over a month is just not a good look. I don't know if you needed to know that or if you already knew that. But you know, we've said this since the beginning. Basically, the communication in this game is not always consistent. Obviously, the dev notes are very cute now, right before the anniversary and right before Black Friday, so that you get your wallets out. It's very cute and nice. But we could have used a notice for this, you know, and to show and to really hammer home the point that they are on top of things in some regard. I don't want to just bash them completely. If you go over to the forums, they posted this 9 hours ago that there is a login connection server error experienced by quite a few players. And a lot of people have reached out to me wanting me to cover this. So, you know, just so that you're aware, they did post this last night at 11, and that they are, you know, experiencing some server issues and they're trying to identify the cause. Apparently, they resolved it a couple of hours later. And then they're going to give everyone a cute little energy boost point reward. So, yeah, some people weren't able to log in for like 10 hours, which is pretty bad. But, okay, so they seem like they're kind of on the ball, right? Are they reworking characters after they release them, like Quicksilver, etc.? No. Are they following up with these promised game modes that they announced a month ago or 3 weeks ago? No. But, yeah, okay, they're dealing with server issues in about 12 hours. That's good. That's good. For a 9-year-old game, that is good. But yes, I did want to talk more about this. So apparently this dice game that 3RL referred to, this is the dice game, I believe, in question, called Hero Pursuit, where it's a mini game. So I don't expect Hero Pursuit to be around forever. I expect it to be, I thought it was just going to be an anniversary thing. Maybe it's going to be something like the what is it called, Timeline Survival, where it appears a week after, or it appears in the first week of an update, or maybe it appears a week after the first week, sort of like cascading mini games. So you have the first week of the update where you have the mini game of Timeline Survival, and then the next week you have the mini game of Hero Pursuit. I think that would be a cool idea, and it would add new content organically that would still feel fresh for longer, and we wouldn't tire of it so soon, because it wouldn't be around all the time, right? So it would take a lot longer for you to get bored of it instead of something that you grind every day or grind every week. But it's a mini game where you chase a villain as the hero, and then you earn rewards. Now, it's described as a dice game. It's called Hero Pursuit. My best guess, because Netmarble has a history of creating dice games, is it's going to look something like this. This is, let me introduce, Disney Magical Dice. This is an 8-year-old trailer now. I think this game is probably defunct. But this was a game where you can play globally with friends. Well, okay, whatever. I don't give a shit. You can just see here on the tile, it looks like a game board, right? And then you roll a dice, and then you land on, oh, you got 6. So you're going to land on Goofy's farm. No, you're going to land on house. Okay, sure, you get a house. That's great for Canadians. Free house. And whatever, this would be like, 100 Norn Stones of Chaos or something like that, right? And over here you'd have like, oh, a CTP or something, I don't know, whatever. You get what I'm trying to say, right? And I believe this would be more or less the game, and the villain would be somewhere along the way, and you'd sort of be chasing the villain down. Who knows, right? Maybe when you catch up to the villain, you have to battle them at some autoplay thing. I don't know. I vaguely remember a dice game in a Netmarble game that I played once upon a time. I don't know if it was Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross, or whether it was Marvel Future Fight, or whether it was another game. I vaguely remember it from years ago, but I wasn't able to find any data or any like proof of it. So this is the best that I got. But I assume it's going to be something like this as a dice game, just because Netmarble has a lot of experience with this. They have a lot of proprietary designs already, and so it wouldn't be difficult for them to come up with another one, essentially. So yeah, that's probably gonna be the dice game if I had to guess. It's gonna be interesting to see whether it's a one-time thing or not. But then we also have this new game mode. So another new game mode. Again, it's been data mined, but there's no other information on it, no announcements, whatever. Referred to as dynamic. Dynamic means it's constantly changing. I don't know if that's the actual exact dynamic of a process or system characterized by constant change, activity, or progress. That's really good. Constant change sounds really good. Now, whether that constant change is the characters that you use or the enemies that you fight, either way, it's good, because almost all of the other content in Marvel Future Fight is extremely static in the sense that at least half of the thing in the game mode never changes, right? However, there is dynamic content in the game that sucks, like Alliance Conquest, where technically everything is dynamic, your team and the enemy team, and when you attack and where you attack, all of it is changing all the time. But obviously the game mode is le suck because the rewards and the time it takes. And we sort of talked about this like equation, this opportunity equation that players engage in mentally when they look at a game mode and they say, okay, I'm going to put in X number of minutes or Y number of hours, and I'm going to get Z number of rewards. Is it worth my time? And of course, most players will say, after a cursory glance of Conquest or maybe a week's worth of suffering, no, it's not worth my time. And it makes sense, right? And we don't blame them for it because it makes sense. So I am excited by the word dynamic. I don't want to make a whole video about the word dynamic because that's just reeks of desperation, and I put on a cologne today. But at the same time, I kind of want it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of want it. And then there's a new collection called Emblems, which appears to be a new money thing, which, sure, okay, fine. They want to continue their sales from Anniversary. They want to keep those highs, right? They don't want to dip down into the sad boy territory of earnings. So they want to introduce a new thing. Again, new collection. Emblems, you can just replace that with Team Up Collection. You can replace that with swords. You can replace that with P cards, reforged CTPs, right? All that stuff is considered a collection that buffs your characters in some meaningful way. A shield archive, right? There's tons of these collection things, and they obviously range in price from super expensive scummy to, oh, it's pretty good, to amazing, super free to play friendly. So we'll have to wait and see where this lands on that spectrum. And I'm excited for it, but I'm mostly excited for these two things here, the dice game and the new dynamic game mode. However, that being said, I do want to briefly cover the Otherworld Battle stuff, because we've already experienced for 3 weeks what the new Otherworld Battle looks like. and I don't really have a lot of good news for it. So yeah, I mean, this is just my take. Obviously, other people may feel differently about it. We haven't seen the full magnitude of the Otherworld Battle changes because of just the way that it was. But for now, okay, let's take a look here. So we have superheroes, the damage increased by 200%, human damage increased by 200%. So obviously, like Spider-Man, these types of superheroes would be super jacked because they get double bonus. And then evil damage dealt decreased by 500%. So characters like Thanos being nerfed, sure. What's the debuff list for this week? 0 debuffed characters. So I kind of thought about this, and while I still like the debuff list, and by the way, the debuff list was crammed a few days ago, just a few days ago, it was crammed full of metas. They did exclude, for some reason, they decided to exclude, I think, Adam and Wolverine or something like that. Or Wolverine and two like pretty obvious meta characters were excluded from the list. And it just got me thinking, you know, even if, like, okay, the point of the ban list is to encourage players to use other characters. But we also know that things are going to fluctuate, and you're going to have weeks where you can use your characters like this, where there's no debuff, and then there's going to be weeks where you can't, right? So they're going to add 8 new characters, presumably, this, like, next week, and then they're going to add another 8, and then the list presumably isn't going to change, or maybe it's going to change, but it still kind of just creates the same issue where the players are very quick to adopt whatever the best team is. And so if you didn't catch it last week, people were actually using the Warriors of the Sky because they were the best available option, essentially. If you had tier 4 Blue Dragon and you had tier 4 Shadow Shell and you had PvP builds on them and said, you know, Sunbird's new uniform, etc., etc. And that's cool. I'm glad that they got their sort of their week in the sunshine and the spotlight. It's nice to see older characters, but not like dead characters, getting revived briefly. But it still doesn't. I feel like it's really not capturing the essence of what it ought to be, which is that players are sort of encouraged and rewarded in a way that, like they don't have to be rewarded, but essentially the way that the game mode is designed, or the way that the debuff list is designed, it should create different teams. And it's not creating different teams. It's just creating a lot of the same team, but teams that are like, it just, people adapt way too quickly. So I don't know. I don't know if it's the best. This is kind of like a bad ramble here at the end of the video, but I'm not sure if just adding more characters to a ban list actually does what we wanted it to do. It may appear on the surface that it does that, but it may end up being a very shallow solution to a problem that's actually more complex. You know, I think maybe part of the issue is that sometimes when, or maybe a lot of times, when they debuff a bunch of characters, then the battlefield effects don't actually end up making sense, or they don't actually end up buffing anyone that is left, that is relevant, if that makes sense. I don't know. So maybe there needs to be more synergy between battlefield effects and debuffed character lists, or sort of like remaining character lists. Maybe there need to be more battlefield effects, like more unique battlefield effects. I honestly think that would be a good idea. Like, why not have a 4th line that says, you know, defenders characters take 50% less damage, have like a 50% damage reduction, or they have like a bonus heal, right, just for the defenders. And so this week, for example, a lot of people are just using, and myself included, are just using the most giga meta team possible, right? 4 absolutely monster stacked tier 4s, and then Wasp there for support. But maybe if there was an extra line of the battlefield effect that gave some sort of interesting buff to all defenders allies, or maybe all annihilators or whatever, then maybe I would be experimenting with Quendel Vaughn, or Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daredevil, whatever, right? It would sort of incentivize more creativity, right? To give people other avenues in order to win. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it, and I see, like, I wanted to include this in the video because I see how it relates to this idea that they're trying to push about the new game mode being dynamic, and maybe this is their idea of dynamic, right? They could say, oh, well, the debuff list is constantly changing, so Otherworld Battle is dynamic. It's actually not. It's actually not dynamic. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is dynamic in the technical sense of the word, but it's also, it feels very static in the sense that, like, okay, this is the week you just use your biggest metas. Then they're gonna ban most of these big metas, so then you use the second tier of metas. And then the third week, when they ban the second tier of metas as well, then you just go to the third tier of metas. And then that's it. And so the pool did get a little bit bigger, but it's still just the same pool, and there's not really experimentation. And that's I think the key word that needs to be pushed moving forward for the devs and for Marvel Future Fight is they need to find a way to encourage a lot of experimentation, right? A lot of experimentation. These days, experimentation is really only driven by player boredom. And player loyalty to specific characters, like players who are super into symbiotes, players who are super into the Warriors of the Sky, whatever, and they just go out of their way, the player, to juice up those characters and then to use them despite the fact that they may be bad or they may be less than optimal, right? But that is not really enough. We need more than those kinds of experimentations by players driven by loyalty, and then this sort of thing. We also need experimentation in other avenues, and they need to push experimentation big time. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching the video. Smash the like button if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.